election day ratings wipeout. Oh my goodness, corporate media is not prepared, nor is it ready for the reckoning that's going to be coming its way, because CNN and MSNBC are both dealing with massive, and I do mean massive ratings wipeout. So first of all, I want to pull up this article here from CNN, or not from CNN, about CNN from the New York Post. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So I take no joy in this. Well, maybe a little bit, because CNN is a corporate media outlet that bullied its way on YouTube and helped create the first initial adpocalypse by going after content creators by saying, oh my goodness, look how mean some of these people are. Ratings challenge CNN is reportedly set for a major bloodbath, with boss Mark Thompson expected to lay off high-priced on-air talent as part of wide-ranging layoffs. Oh my God. What do I got to say about that?
Amazing. Amazing. Amazing.
Oof. 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 loving the new soundboard. Loving the new soundboard. So there you go. So the cable network, which lagged behind rivals BSDNC, MSNBC I meant, as well as Fox News during last week's election night coverage, will implement layoffs that will impact hundreds of employees across the organization. Thompson, who took over last year after the ouster of Chris Litch, by the way, Chris Litch, who set up that first town hall on CNN with Donald Trump, by the way, which was a major boost for CNN's ratings. You would think people would be foaming at the mouth to keep old Chrissy boy in, but they didn't. Will call personnel from CNN's television production teams whose talents won't necessarily be needed in the new digital-first landscape. Oh, no. Oh, no. This isn't good. Kurt Boss says, CNN layoffs. I'm so upset. No. And, wow, they censored me for the demise, there you go, of legacy media. So there you go. And hold on. And Melissa Brooke DeHart writes, oh, shoot, did their support for a genocide screw them over? What a surprise. Hold on. Better yet, color me shocked. The network's workforce is reportedly to be coping with an atmosphere, oh God, cope, of high stress and high anxiety. I could somewhat relate to that. Thompson, the former CEO of the New York Times and the BBC, may also demand deep cuts to massive salaries ranked in by its struggling primetime stable of anchors, including, oh no, Anderson Cooper, Aaron Burnett, and Caitlin Collins. Oh no. Cooper, who anchored the election night coverage, ranks an annual salary reported to be as high as $20 million. Burnett takes about $6 million. Collins takes home a more budget-friendly of $3 million. Ah! The Post has sought comment from CNN. Signs of change were apparent on Monday after Chris Wallace confirmed that he was leaving CNN, ending a 3-year stint at the network that was marred with low ratings and turmoil in its corporate board. Also, spending $250 million on a streaming service wasn't really, a big brain tactic to do. Last month, the independent newsletter, The Ankler, reported that Thompson would ask Wallace, who was earning a reported salary of $8.5 million annually, as well as other top stars at the network, such as Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitz, to take pay cuts. Everybody's getting a pay cut. Oh, no. As part of Thompson's reorganization plan, CNN will ask reporters and correspondents to assume more of the responsibilities that are currently being handled by producers and a production assistants. Oh, listen, some of those people may not have what it takes. Look, hey, I'm the host. Okay, I'm a co-owner. Okay. Number 2, I produce and I edit. There's a lot of stuff I have to do. Some of these people can't do that. All right. It can't be the jack of all trades. CNN will also do away with redundant assignments while either reducing or outright eliminating various divisions. That means the investigative teams are going to be cut. They're going to be cut. Earlier this year, CNN laid off about 100 employees, or 3% of its workforce. The expected changes come amid paltry ratings for the network on Election Day, a day that has historically dominated. CNN has just 5.1 million viewers in primetime last Tuesday night, according to Nielsen data. Fox News shares common ownership with the Post, reeled in 10.3 million viewers from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, according to Nielsen data. MSNBC's coverage, anchored by Rachel Maddow, averaged 6 million viewers to best CNN for the first time in its history. Is this the end of CNN? I'll let you decide. In 2016, CNN had an audience of 13.3 million viewers on Election Day. That was in 2016. 13.3 million to, surprise, surprise, 5.1 million. That's a good chunk. It's not just half. It's a good slice of the pie. Continuing on, CNN spokespeople touted the network's cross-platform audience of 44 million, which includes 14 million who streamed coverage on its digital platforms on CNN Max. CNN Max, HBO Max, I don't know what you were thinking, but there's a whole new change, especially now that Donald Trump got elected into the White House.
In the wake of Trump's election win, a lot of questions are being asked about how the media covered this election. But it is also worth asking, what exactly is the news media these days? Particularly,
what is the news media? Type in the comment section below. No such thing as a wrong answer.
When right-wing podcasts of the manosphere, like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, drove the news cycle as much as traditional outlets. As The Atlantic's Charlie Warzel put it, the legacy media has been, quote, competing for attention and reckoning with the truth that many Americans don't read, trust, or really care all that about what happens and what papers, magazines, or cable news even have to say.
Do you care what the establishment media has to say? Type 1 for yes, Kit, I do. There is some value in it. Type 2, no, I don't. I don't care at all. I wonder how many twos will be in the chat. Now, I will say this, my job as someone who covers, the media, give my commentary, my thoughts on current political situations. There are some interesting aspects to look in regards to corporate media. It's a fascinating study. But remember, the reason why things are the way they are is because sometime in the 90s, a president, you might not have heard of him, Bill Clinton, signed a Telecoms Act to make corporate media what it was. And for a long time, many of these corporate media outlets were on cloud nine until this thing, you're going to be surprised about this, called the internet came along and became a full dominant force in our lives. Some would say for the good, some would say for the worse, some would say it's a shocking sloppy gray.
Here to discuss, David Folkenflik, media correspondent for NPR. David, I'm so glad you're here. Do we need to rethink what the news model is as we're seeing kind of the right-wing echo chamber gain more and more prominence, the rise of the manosphere?
That's nothing new. The rise of... For those who don't know, the manosphere is red pill kind of content, okay? And I get it. I understand why it came into existence. The internet is leading us down to this pathway of a Blade Runner type grim, dark future, which I am very frightened about and concerned about. Yes, I'm impressed with the technology, but there's always a cost. Everything has a cost. And it explains why there's a huge loneliness epidemic amongst both men and women, and how it's severely going to change our societies.
But Univision is more right-leaning now, and you've got companies like Sinclair Broadcasting that own local news media across the country.
Sure. I mean, what's impressive in some ways is the way in which conservative forces have created this alternative media ecosphere that is, in a sense, the mirror image of the, what shall we say, caricature of the legacy and mainstream media that they...
No, corporate media, you are the caricature. I also want to acknowledge something here too. And I want to, I'm very grateful for the kind comment, but I do want to give my 2 cents on it. It's on my Rumble chat. J.K. Michael, 1167, you wrote, hell, I know I don't care what anyone says, but you, Kit. Well, first of all, thank you. I know, and I see a smiling, laughing emoji. That's, on the one hand, funny. On the other hand, too, I encourage you, my audience, to please listen and check out different perspectives and points of view as well. I love it that you guys are well-rounded and will critically think. That's what I want out of my audience, okay? To be critical thinkers, okay? That means even occasionally, sometimes, I know, don't vomit in your brains. Maybe occasionally hearing what corporate media says so that you can filter out the BS and make your own conclusions. That's what I want from all of you. Make your own conclusions. Do that for everything that you listen to. Be a free thinker. I know I like to joke, listen to me, but no. Listen to different opinions and make your own conclusion, as you should all the time, every time.
They presented for all these decades, right? It is much of it intently created and aimed at propping up conservative forces, knocking down liberal either talking points or agendas, and discrediting them in the process in a way that the mainstream media doesn't really think of its motivation. It's not why people at the Washington Post get out of bed to report. It's not why people at Axios go and call sources, but this is what they've created. I do also think, you call it the manosphere.
Again, talking about creation, you guys helped create it too, right? It was a response. Corporate media and its creation and its first initial decade helped lay the foundations for an inevitable pushback. This is truth. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. They all helped contribute to this environment we are in now.
Toying around this weekend. Is it sort of the Broseph podcast ecosystem? What's the right term for it? But, those weren't necessarily created expressly to do this. Joe Rogan, don't forget, back in 2019, early 2020, was palling around with Bernie Sanders. And in fact, I believe endorsed him in that race, and really evolved not from a political stance, but from a sort of pop culture position where he was talking about things that crossed his radar screen and interested him and engaged with it. And so I think there are a couple of things going on.
Now, look, Joe Rogan is not part of that manosphere, okay? He does his own thing, okay? And there's a reason why he has a popular show is because, as corporate media did correctly say, yeah, he engaged with subjects that interested him, and he had a wide range of guests. But how did corporate media treat him on, especially during the Trump years? They start calling him right wing, fascist adjacent, conservative, all that stuff, which he never was. And when he had Bernie Sanders on, yes, he did endorse him until, well, he was kind of forced away from him from the liberal Democrat pushback. Look at you, AOC. Looking at you. Looking at you. What a sight it would be to see AOC on the Joe Rogan podcast if that would happen. After all, AOC did say, hey, I want a list of people that you listen to. Hopefully not to censor, because remember, she said, hey, deplatforming works, which is never a good idea.
As Charlie wrote, as Jim Vandehei, the creator and top figure at Axios, has suggested in the last day or so, about half of the American public doesn't look to mainstream media sources for credible information. And in some ways, they've been trained not to do so. Folks have been. In some ways, media organizations, news outlets have made grievous mistakes and often been very defensive about that. And in some ways, you've seen the collapse of so much of the local news industry, these pillars of journalism locally and regionally that provided the horsepower for so much accountability journalism across the country that it's understandable. And I'm not sure the mainstream media has the capacity yet to figure out how to accommodate that, how to absorb that information and that's sinking in and really respond right now.
But let's go back to one of the first things you said. What the right wing has created is a caricature of the mainstream media.
No. Corporate media is that caricature. You are the caricature, all right? It's not just right-wing media. I mean, at this point, if we look at Fox News is just the same as CNN. It's just a little bit more entertaining. There you go. And occasionally, they'll be on the mark, and then halfway through, they'll drop trowel and take a dump in the middle of the field and go right back to being the same corporate media outlet that we see here in the USA. After all, 4 corporations control 95% of all media here in the USA. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Not what the actual mainstream media is or does. And given that, what's happening? What are the conversations happening in newsrooms right now about how they cover Donald Trump going forward? Because so many people have said since 2016, I've covered Donald Trump.
Don't worry, Kurt Boss. They'll never hire me.
In and out. And I fact checked him day in and day out. And then we came up to this election and many readers or viewers or Americans just said, I don't believe you.
That's right. And yet there's this push and pull.
Yes, there is a reason why they don't believe you. Again, what happened? What happened? Oh, I don't know. Let's just use some caveats. I mean, there's a treasure trove, and you, my audience, hey, add in your commentary. But let's add in some big ones. There are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Yeah, that was fake. The Hunter Biden laptop story, that wasn't real. Oh, wait, it was real. Hey, people are being censored and deplatformed on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X for talking about the Hunter Biden laptop story or talking about the election. Oh, that's fake news. Oh, turns out that was real. Russiagate. What about that? Need I go on? Need I continue? Need I continue? Because that's just dusting. You know, it's not dusting the surface. What it is, I think it's a perfect example. You're putting your finger on the kitchen table, wiping it off, and you see a little dust. And that is just one example. One example, people. There's a couple, but I'm pretty sure you dig deeper, you're going to find more examples of corporate media getting things wrong. Oh, hey, all Bernie Sanders supporters are straight white males. or is it better yet? Even though it wasn't a big deal, but it's a small issue. Mark Cuban on corporate media calling Trump and Trump supporters socialist, communists. Congratulations, Trumpers. Now you're communists too.
Right? I mean, you see various responses. One response was as it got close, as it was clearly a 50-50 chance, turned out to be a little better than that for Donald Trump, but nonetheless, 50-50 coin flip, who was going to win as election day neared. You saw a number of major news organizations decide at the top levels, at the ownership level, not to endorse, for example, and in the case of Los Angeles Times, particularly the Washington Post, not to endorse Vice President Harris. Owner Jeff Bezos, with so many billions of dollars of interest before the federal government, flinched and said, I don't want to do that. I want to be seen as nonpartisan. But then he had a backlash from his subscribers. We were able to report that more than 250,000 digital subscribers, approximately 10% of their digital circulation, filed formal cancellations. That is, they said, if this is what you're doing so close to the election, it's not that you're deciding not to intervene. It's actually that you're intervening by not speaking up at this time. And so there are push and pull countervailing forces right now. What I will say is that you're seeing the Post commit through in a sense, it's Oracle on this network, on MSNBC. Bob Woodward, of Watergate fame, said he had spoken to Will Lewis, the publisher, and to Matt Murray, the executive editor. And they said, listen, we are committed to accountability journalism and urgency in our reporting, but we're going to avoid the cheap shots. We're going to avoid the hyperbole. We're going to avoid the overheated rhetoric that they feel characterized so much as the press's first response to Trump, which of course was in a sense
You guys gave him billions of dollars of free press in 2016. You would focus on his empty podium. What's wrong with you, honey child?
Unprecedented in this country. And so the press did, I think, find it difficult to calibrate what pitch they were reporting at, what pitch their voices were at in the face of so many created crises in the first Trump years.
Well, there'll be a lot to cover, and we'll see how all of this is about to play out. David, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, here's how it'll play out. Here, folks. Here's how it's going to play out. MSNBC ratings plunge after Trump election victory as more than half of the primetime audience flees. All right, it's more or less the same kind of story. What's happening at CNN, MSNBC, BSDNC, primetime viewership plunged 54% in the days after Donald Trump won the White House. But see, this happens all the time, every election cycle. Like, again, people don't tune in as much. Now, Donald Trump is a ratings boost, but things might be a little bit different now because, well, we went through the first 4 years of Trump, then we went 4 years without Trump, and now we got 4 years of Trump. I mean, what can he say that's more shocking and surprising? Can Trump get a peace deal? Oh, maybe. Will something fundamentally change? I don't know. Nothing seems to fundamentally change. But perhaps the way Americans consume media will change. Let's be clear here. Our smartphones, our tablets, our computers, laptops, you name it, our smart TVs. This is where we get our news and information from. The internet. Information at mere seconds. Snap of the fingers. Mere seconds. And gone are the traditional days of the people like Walter Cronkite. But can a Walter Cronkite actually survive in today's modern neoliberal corporate media sphere on Fox News, on CNN, on MSNBC, on CBS, on ABC? The answer is probably no. And even then, when there is a popular person, let's say people who are challenging, let's say, for example, remember the war in Iraq, how many people, pundits, journalists or anchors who did challenge the war in Iraq way back in the Bush-Cheney years, how many of them maintained their jobs? Not a whole lot. Vast majority of them fired, removed, ostracized, blacklisted. And just for something, just bring up this example here. Fox News, I don't know what the hell you were thinking, but as soon as you can, Tucker Carlson, oh yeah, a lot of people were cheering, but you want to know what happened? Eventually, those cheers died down. AOC didn't seem to care anymore because deplatforming works. Tucker Carlson created his own network and took his audience with him, and that was a big chunk of a lot of people who watched your network, Fox News. Big, brilliant, dumb move. The environment is changing, and perhaps maybe a mass extinction level event is taking place. No, I won't compare CNN or MSNBC to the dinosaurs. That's not fair to do to T-Rex. I would never do that. But we do have to look at what something I have said, what Daniel has said on the show, and that is corporate media is coming to an end.